Hello，大家如果可以的话，请把你们的 Zoom 名称改成拼音或者是英文名称这样我们的教授也会跟大家上课之间方便我们的互动。If you guys are able to, please change your name to English or pinyin, whatever works best for you, so it's easier when professor are interacting with you during the class today. Thank you, guys. Right. We'll just wait just a couple more minutes, just in case we have someone just signing in right now. We'll get started very soon. And if you just joined, please update your name to English. So when during the class today, the professor can interact with you if you have any questions. 刚进来的同学，请把大家的名字改成英文或者拼音哈，谢谢。然后稍后方便我们课堂上教授跟您互动。哦，chat box 里边有一位同学说他听不到声音，我想请问一下，其他同学可以听到我的声音吗？好，谢谢。谢谢各位同学，感谢大家今天来参加我们今天的电影电视的大师工作坊。那刚进来的同学呢，请把你的名称改成英文，方便我们教授跟您沟通哈。Thank you, everybody, for joining us today at the Learn from the Best workshop. If you just joined, please change your name to English so our professor can interact with you throughout the class today. And thank you guys so much again for coming. Now, before I turn over to Professor, I just want to introduce Scad to you guys in case you have not heard about us. So we're Scad, Savannah College of Art and Design. Scad 是一所4年制的大学，那我们是全美第一的艺术与设计类院校。那同时，我们也是 Rookies 认证的全美第一的创意媒体和娱乐的院校。那同时呢，Rookies 把我们评为全球最佳的产品设计，也就是工业设计院校。那同时呢，我们也是红点设计大奖评为的全美第一的艺术类大学。那今年呢，我们的 QS 排名也是在全球的艺术和设计院校内排名第16，那全美第7的一个排名。Scad 呢，目前有4所校园分别在美国的佐治亚州，还有南法，还有线上课堂。那在佐治亚，我们就有2个校园，分别坐落在我们的亚特兰大，还有我们的萨凡纳这2个校园呢，都是非常的具有不一样的氛围。那亚特兰大是一个更现代化的都市，萨凡纳呢是一个历史悠久的海滨城市。那我们的浪漫的南法是我们学校的留学校园。同时呢，如果同学们想的话，可以在全球的任意一个国家通过线上来学习，参与到 Scad 的课程当中。 那这里呢，想给大家展示的就是我们所有的学校有的专业和项目。那在 Scad，我们拥有100多个专业学位，其中包括40多门主修，然后其他的包含辅修，还有研究所专业。那所有你能想象到的，不管是动画啊、服装设计啊、广告啊、品牌管理，还是珠宝工业设计等等这些和艺术与设计类相关的专业呢，在我们学校是应有尽有的。这里是一个短视频，请各位欣赏。
The catalyst of potential for myself and for the people around me.
You have this wonderland that is Scad, where you have all these resources to execute your wildest dreams.
Scad to me is this pot of gold of inspiration.
Scad is where the future of all creative industries is reimagined. Our graduates not only know how to excel in their industries, but they know how to innovate and create change.
Scad students are the first in the world to be actively working and collaborating on LED volume stages, taking their storytelling capabilities to new heights.
I have never seen anything like that before. It's really just the foundation of how to build a business and how to be an entrepreneur.
Scad is where creativity knows no bounds. It's where imagination and passion come together to inspire and innovate.
The resources are endless. As a student, I really took advantage of those resources to absorb as much knowledge as I could.
Scad definitely is the best place to be. I'm on my way to my dream career because of Scad.
I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much for having me.
When I first came to Scad, I was absolutely amazed by the energy and the positivity.
I wish I brought my daughter here today, and I wish she could see the community that all of you get to be a part of every day.
Scad is a lifelong institution. You're part of this school for the rest of your life. The wondrous resources that are available to you is phenomenal.
那今天呢，我们也是非常荣幸的，请到我们的电影电视系的副主任 Brett Wagner 教授来到我们今天的 Zoom 现场，跟大家讲解大家体验我们 Scad 的课程。那同学们不要忘记，参加我们2节课程呢，就可以拿到我们的这个参课的证书。那接下来呢，话不多说，我就把这个 Zoom 交给我们的教授，让教授来带领大家开始今天的课程。Professor, it's all yours.
Okay. Great to meet all of you. My name is Brett Wagner. I'm the Associate Chair of Film and Television here at Scad in Savannah. I have been here for 6 years as the Associate Chair. I am a filmmaker, a feature filmmaker, and also a director of television commercials and branded content. So like many of the professors here at Scad, I'm working in the industry as well as teaching here. So I'm really excited to do this. This is the first time I've participated in one of these programs. I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you in Taipei in, what is it, 3 weeks, about 3 weeks from now. So you're here because you're interested in film, or at least curious about film. There is a range of experience probably represented on this call right now. There are people who have done no film whatsoever. There are people who've been making movies for years. But I think that even for people with experience, there's value in looking at the fundamentals of cinematic storytelling, where it begins, what the foundation is on which we build the amazing movies that we all love to see in theaters. So this will be a 3-part program, with 3 workshops today, a week from now, and then on the ground in person later in the month. And so I'm going to share my screen now, and we're just going to talk about the first stage of cinematic storytelling, which is the script. And this is going to build to all of us, everybody here, making a film that on that final day, we're able to watch and review together and discuss and critique. So that's the ultimate goal. I'm going to share my screen now. I'll move it over here so that it's in front of me. Hold on, I think I have to do it one more time. There we go. Okay, so I'd like to frame this in terms of what happens in your very first film class at Scad. And this applies both to undergraduate and graduate. And I believe we've got a mix of both on the call today, potential undergrad students and potential graduate students. It's possible to come in pursuing an MFA at the graduate level, even without prior film experience, in which case your first year at Scad would look pretty similar to your first year of courses in the undergraduate program. This is what we talk about in the very first film class, Film 100, the fundamentals of cinematic storytelling. How do we tell a story on film versus other media, versus plays or novels or short stories? What is cinematic storytelling? We learn about writing a screenplay, how to format a screenplay properly. There are internationally standardized formats for scripts that everybody who collaborates on making a movie knows and can reference. Software that interacts with each other in order to make it possible for that script to be a blueprint for an entire film, because that's really what it is. We learn the basics of cameras and lenses. That's sometimes what people are initially attracted to film by. Sometimes people are coming from storytelling, but a lot of times they're coming from loving the camera and loving the making of images. So learning different cameras and almost more importantly, different types of lenses and what a lens does, because a lens is sort of your eye. It's the camera's eye. And unlike the human eye, where we've only got one, well, we've got two, but we've only got one kind, you can change lenses and transform the way in which image is captured. So that's something very important that we talk about. We talk about shot design and composition, because the next step when you go from the story that is on the page in the script and it's time to shoot it, you have to design every shot. You have to compose every frame that's going to become the mode of telling the story. So that's a very, very important part of cinematic storytelling. We also discuss, and again, I'm still in the first class, how film crews are structured, because films take hundreds of people to make. And in order for that to work, there has to be a very clear hierarchy. There has to be an order of operations. There have to be the people in charge communicating clearly with other people who communicate with other people so that everyone is doing the same thing. And finally, we think about movies. We talk about movies, what we love about movies, stories that move us. We remember that we're all here to do art. So all of this is the beginning of the Scad journey. And I've been a working filmmaker for 20 years, and I can tell you that I'm still learning things every day. This is not an art form that anybody can ever master. It's just a constant journey of learning. But we work to give you the best possible foundation and set you off on that trajectory very early on in your SCAD career. So today in this class, in this workshop, we're going to talk about this first part, the fundamentals of cinematic storytelling. We're not even going to get to formatting a screenplay. And in fact, I'm not going to worry about that in the course of this three-part workshop. In our second workshop, the second time we meet, we'll talk about shot design and composition. But between now and then, you're going to write a screenplay. And if you know how to format a screenplay to industry standards, that's great, and you should do it. If you don't know, don't worry about it. It does not matter if your screenplay is formatted improperly for this workshop, because I'd rather spend our time talking about the fun stuff and the creative stuff. There will be plenty of time to get all the details right as you proceed in your education. There's a very famous American filmmaker named John Ford, who worked during the 1950s and the 1960s. And he described filmmaking as painting a picture with an army. And that really is what it's like. Obviously, as a student, you're going to start much smaller. Your army might just be 4 or 5 people. It might just be you. You might be an army of 1 to get started here. And that's okay. Film can be created at any level, and it comes back to, are you telling a good story? So one thing I wanted to mention, I believe that this class is coming from different schools, possibly even different cities around Taiwan. If you know other people in the class, or you go to school with other people in the class, and you want to team up and make one project together, that is okay. That can be your army. If you're by yourself and you're working individually, that is also okay. I just wanted to say that is completely up to you. The main thing is that we're going to create some interesting stories here together and get to review them and develop them. Okay, just a few thoughts about film before I dive in a little further. The first of those is that film is really the youngest art form that we have on planet Earth. People have been writing novels, people have been painting, people have been sculpting, people have been acting, people have been making music for thousands of years. All of those art forms have existed for thousands of years. Film has only existed for about 100 years. There's also video games, which are certainly an art form, and those are younger than film. But I think that the increasingly artistic expression that comes through video games is in a way a subset of cinema. And those of you who are gamers know that there are cut scenes that are essentially little movies. So I'm including gaming in the world of cinema when I say that movies are the youngest art form. In my view, it's also the most immersive art form. When you're watching a film the right way, you're in a dark theater, you don't have your phone, you're looking at a giant screen that fills your vision, you're hearing sounds, you're seeing images, you are fully immersed. All the different art forms come together in film. There's acting, there's painting, there's photography, there's music. Everything can be contained in a movie and absolutely immerse the audience in it for an uninterrupted 2 hours, sometimes more. When you see a painting in a museum, how long do you look at it? Unless you're a student, unless you're trying to copy it or something like that, you probably look at it for maybe a minute or two. If you really love it, maybe you look at it for 10 minutes. But a movie, you're with it, you're immersed in it for 2 hours. There's not a lot of other art that commands your attention in such a fixed way for so long. I think that's one of the things that is so powerful about it. It is also the fastest evolving and the fastest growing art form. We watch more and more film content every day. The shape of it is changing, the duration is changing. Now we watch a lot of shorter content. We might watch it on our phones. Some of those things are changing. We might watch things vertically instead of horizontally. It's evolving very quickly, and the technology is also evolving. In the preliminary video that Emily showed, you saw some scenes of our virtual production stage here in Savannah. We also have one in Atlanta. That is a new piece of technology that didn't exist 10 years ago. If you're not familiar with it, it's a giant curved LED video screen that is behind the actors. Ours is, I believe it's 20 feet tall and 60 feet wide, curved partial circle, that you can get them 360 degrees as well. And this is a way that instead of having your actors on location, or instead of filming your actors against a green screen where they have to imagine the world that they're in, and then in post-production you have to put that together with an image, now you can project a real-time image onto the background behind them, and that video screen is interacting in real time with the camera position, so that if you move the camera around the actor, the background can shift too, to keep it looking realistic. The computers that are driving the video background know what lens is on the camera, so that the aspect ratio and the parallax of the lens affects the way the image in the background looks. And that environment in the background can be changed and modified in real time using the Unreal gaming engine. It's the same platform that video games are created in. So it doesn't have to be filmed content that can't change. It's changeable. You can move a tree from here to here. You can move the sun across the horizon. You can make it go from day to night with the push of a button. It's an incredibly powerful tool that is transforming the way film is made. And it's brand new. It didn't exist 10 years ago. And at Scad, our students are already working with it. So film is a very dynamic, very fast moving art form. It's also the most expensive art form. And that is something that you need to be aware of and think about. My one little caveat, my exception down here, is maybe architecture. Building a building might be more expensive than making a big movie. But the fact that film is expensive means that film has to be able to earn money. You can paint a painting. It may cost you $10 in materials, or a little bit more possibly. It's okay if that painting never makes money. In your career, when you're making a movie on a large scale, that film has to make money. And that's a factor. That's a factor that affects how we tell stories. And it creates a set of conventions that, as filmmakers, we need to learn. We need to understand what an audience expects from a movie, so that we can deliver a sense of satisfaction. Now, you don't always have to do that. You can make an art film. You can make an experimental film. You can make a film that defies all the expectations of the audience. And that's great. That's what art is really all about. But it's also very important, if you hope to spend your life working in film, that you know how to deliver something that meets audience expectations, so that your films have a chance at finding an audience and being marketable. It's also the most collaborative art form. That's one of the things that is really fun and exciting about it. Different people with different talents come together to create something. The skills and the talents of an actor are entirely different from the skills and the talents of a cinematographer. And yet those people have to come together under the guidance of a director to put something on the screen. Scenic artists, painters, builders, carpenters, sound recordists, musicians, all of these different types of artists, visual effects artists, digital animators, have to come together to create a singular vision under the guidance of the director. That takes a while to learn. It takes a while to find that team. One of the things that I think is the most important thing to accomplish when you're at school, whatever school you go to, is to find your team and begin to find the people that you want to work with and continue working with for a long time. And that's why I say that even in this workshop, if you want to find somebody to team up with, there's no reason not to start now. Okay, so let's talk about stories, because all of that is about the business of film and the practice of film. But why do we do it at all? Why do we care about stories? And I don't just mean film stories now. I mean any kind of story. As humans, we're obsessed with stories. It might be one of the most important things that sets us apart from every other kind of animal on Earth, is that we tell each other stories all the time. And I think there are a number of reasons why we do that. One of those, maybe the most important one, is to try to make sense of the world. We live in a very complex world. A lot of things happen. A lot of things happen to us that are outside of our control. Telling stories is an important way to try to organize our experiences into something that feels coherent, something that has meaning. But it's also the case that at the end of a long day of existing in the world, you might want to just relax and do something that doesn't require you to constantly be trying to solve your problems. And I think just taking our minds off the day is something that stories do for us. It's why we watch TV at night, is because we just want to relax. We want to stop thinking about our own lives and think about the lives of others for a while. It helps us bond over a shared mythology. You know, there's religion, there's myths. Different cultures have different myths. But movies also create stories that we recognize. I mean, even though we live on opposite sides of the world, probably everybody on this call knows who Luke Skywalker is, or knows who Indiana Jones is, or definitely knows who Spider-Man is. So these are myths, right? This is the shared mythology that film stories and originally comic books, but movies more so, they bring all of humanity together. We can all kind of talk about Spider-Man or talk about Batman and know that we're sharing a language. Most importantly, though, it helps us feel emotions. And it's really important to remember that, especially if you're somebody who is drawn to film because you love cool shots and you like images. Remember that your audience is there to have an emotion. Maybe it's to laugh, maybe it's to cry, maybe it's to be frightened in a safe way, but everybody comes to a movie to have emotions. All of that put together is entertainment. The word catharsis is a really important one. That is the experience of having an emotion brought on by a story that then releases and makes you feel better. Because if you think about it, why would anyone ever want to go spend their evening crying or being scared? Well, the reason is that you do it in a safe place. You do it not about the events of your own life, but about the events of fictional characters. And at the end of that, you've released those emotions, and it's a form of therapy, and it makes you feel better. If it's also fun, then a story has really accomplished everything that we can hope for. And again, I want to emphasize that we've been doing this part of it for thousands of years. Sitting around a campfire, after a day of hunting, gathering, whatever Stone Age people were doing 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. They were telling each other stories about the day, and in a very sophisticated, complex, universal way. That's what movies are still doing. Okay, so let's talk about what goes into a story. What makes something a story? Because a series of events is not a story. An idea by itself is not a story. So let's think of an idea. A moon colony and a murder committed on the moon. That's an idea. It's an idea for a story, but it's not a story, not yet. It's just an idea. A series of events. I woke up this morning, I did some exercises, I took a shower, I drank some coffee, I logged on to Zoom. It's a series of events, but it's not a story. So let's think about what has to be there before an idea or a series of events can become a story. The first thing, importantly, is that somebody wants something. There is a character, a protagonist, and there should just be one. If you find yourself coming up with a story and it's about a group of friends or about an entire family, first thing you need to do is figure out, okay, who in that group of friends or in that family is my main character? Who's my protagonist? There can be only one, especially in a short film. So there's somebody, and what defines that person is that they want something. They have a desire, they have a goal. Whatever they want and they are pursuing, it can't be easy to get. It's got to be hard to get. There have to be obstacles. There have to be things stopping them from getting it. If what somebody wants is to escape from a maze, and the maze is a straight hallway and they walk out the front door, you don't have a story. That maze has to be complicated. And it can't just be the same obstacle over and over again. It has to be a series of obstacles that get more and more challenging. Something has to be at stake. And what I mean by that is it has to matter to the audience whether the character, whether the protagonist achieves that goal. So if the protagonist wants to learn to play guitar, if that's the goal, and the obstacles are all the things that make it hard to play a guitar. First of all, they don't have the money for a guitar, so they have to borrow the money, find the money to get a guitar. Then they have to practice for a long time, and eventually they manage to learn to play guitar. It's a story, but it's not a very good story until something is at stake, until there's a reason that we care. So if our protagonist wants to learn to play guitar because her brother was a famous guitarist and he died young in a car accident, and now she wants to follow in his footsteps and become a great guitarist and fulfill the legacy that her brother was not able to fulfill, now it feels like something is at stake. Now it matters to us. There's an emotion connected to the idea of the goal. So you can have a story without stakes, but it's not going to be a very good story. It's not going to be a story that we all care about. And those stakes need to be relatable. Somebody can be trying to do something very strange that doesn't really make any sense, or that is magical, or that comes from a world that is completely different. In Lord of the Rings, somebody can be trying to take a magic ring and drop it into a volcano. None of us have ever done that. Nobody on this call has ever taken a magic ring and dropped it into a volcano. But it doesn't matter, because there are relatable stakes for the character. We understand that the battle between good and evil is what's driving the character, and resisting corruption and giving away this incredible power in order to remain a good person. That's what's at stake. So we can all relate to it and engage with it, even though the specific goal might be something very unusual. Why now? Every story has to happen for a reason. There's a reason it had to happen today. That's often called the inciting incident. It's the thing that kicks off the story. So it could be a car accident, and now you have a new goal because you've just been in a car accident. Maybe it's to get to work on time. Maybe it's to get to an important test, but your car is broken down. Now you've got a goal, and there's a reason that it happened today, and there's something at stake, and we can relate to it. Something has to happen to trigger the story. And then the ending. This is the hardest part. It's the hardest part of every story. And all the time we see movies that don't do a very good job with the ending, because it's very, very difficult to come up with a good ending. The key to the ending is that it needs to be surprising. If we know from the beginning how it's going to end, the audience is just kind of waiting for it to happen. You don't want the audience to be ahead of the story. However, it also can't be totally random. It has to happen for a reason. And that's why we say inevitable. There has to be a sense that the way it ends is both a surprise and it's also very satisfying to the audience because it makes sense. It brings the world into some kind of balance, the world of the story. So it's just 5 rules, but it's really hard. It's really hard to tell a good story, a good, fresh, original story that has all 5 of those things in an effective and satisfying way. So this is a way you can kind of summarize it as you start to come up with a story, because again, everybody here, whether teams or individually, you're all going to try to come up with a story that you can make a very short film out of, short, simple film, but one that does all of these things. You can think of it as a person with a purpose and a problem. So your person is your protagonist, that one individual who has a goal, that's the purpose, and they also have a problem. There's a reason they can't get to that goal. And the journey of trying to get to that goal arrives at a place that is both surprising and inevitable. It's got to be a little different from what we expect. Okay, so I'd like to show a very, very short little film here. It is only, I believe, 1 minute long. I may have to stop and restart the share. In fact, let me go ahead and open this and see what happens. Okay, and I'm gonna get through. It starts with a TV commercial that I'm gonna get through first. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I want to make this full screen, and it's I'm struggling with it a little bit. Give me a second. Okay. Is that sharing full screen now? No?
Not.
Hold on.
Now it is.
Now it is? Okay, great. And hopefully it's still optimized. Okay. Okay. It's very, very simple little movie, just about a guy trying to make toast and struggling. But in its own small way, it does all of the things that we talked about, right? It's a character with a goal. It's a relatable goal. We understand what he wants, why he wants it, and there's an obstacle to getting it. He can't figure out how to make the toaster work. It's very, very simple. Now, there's not a lot at stake. And as the stakes go up for a movie, our engagement is deeper. We care more. The stakes are very low in this movie. Does he get toast? You know, it doesn't really matter. But we can relate to, you know, if there's something we want and it's the morning, what it feels like to not be able to get it. So he tries many things to solve his problem. None of them work. They escalate. They get a little more ridiculous. And then finally, he realizes what the problem is, which is that there's a little button that needs to activate the electrical outlet. So the ending was surprising, not something we saw coming, and the movie's over. So very, very small. And this is, I show you this film to give you a sense of the scale of what I want you to attempt in this class. It doesn't have to be a big movie. Nobody has to die. There don't have to be any car chases. You're doing something very simple, but it meets all those requirements of a story. Okay, so I'd like to show you another one. Let me, I can now close this and reconnect with this. Okay. This is a film called Black Hole. It is a little bit longer, 3 minutes long. And let's see, we're not, hold on. I think I'm sharing my entire screen. I want to just share. Just want to share the PowerPoint. There we go. That should look better.
Professor, you're muted.
So I think this film does something a little bit more than Toast does, right? First of all, the level of entertainment is higher because it's showing us something new and intriguing that we haven't seen before. It's got a really strong idea at the core. Somebody who wants to make toast in the morning, it's relatable, it's interesting, but it's not really that exciting. Somebody who has a piece of paper with a hole in it that allows them to reach through any surface is interesting. It's new and it's exciting. But what the movie also does that I think is important and that makes it, a better work of art than Toast is that it has something to say about life on Earth. It's a lesson. It is the story of somebody who is given a power and they use it for greed. They use it to steal. And in the end, they're punished for it in a funny but very surprising and somewhat alarming way, especially if you're at all claustrophobic. The idea of being trapped in there it's hard to end the movie there. That's good storytelling. That is adding that extra layer of meaning, of making sense out of our lives, of having something to say. Now, not every film, not every feature film achieves that. But if you can achieve that with simple storytelling, then you're doing something really great. Okay, let me bring my keynote back. All right. So as I've mentioned, in this workshop, we're all going to develop a script together, and we're going to take that to the point where you've shot a film. So first thing to think about is, what's your idea? What excites you? What do you want to tell a story about? Then figure out who's your protagonist. And they can only be a protagonist if they want something. This is really crucial. All of these steps are crucial, but especially this. They have to want something, and they have to want it badly. It could be that they've lost something that they're trying to recover. It could be that they don't even know what they want, but they have to want something. What do they do to try to achieve it? What are those steps? And what stands in the way? What are those obstacles? And the obstacles have to be big. They have to almost fail. We all look for that in a story, that things get as bad as they can be before the character solves the problem. And then what does the audience learn from the journey? In The Black Hole, we're reminded that greed is bad and that you're going to get punished if you try to steal by the world. That's the lesson of The Black Hole. And it doesn't always have to be that simple. It doesn't have to be a moral, but it needs to be something that makes us think about life a little bit. Okay, so you're going to be starting this process by writing a log line. And they're hard to write, but they're a good place to start because they really force you to clarify what story you're trying to tell. So this is a pretty good format. It doesn't have to be this, but this is a good way to structure your log line. Just fill in these blanks. When something happens, that's the inciting incident, your protagonist must do something. What is their challenge in order to achieve their goal? What is their goal? What do they desperately want? Learning along the way that what's the meaning of your story? What's the lesson? So this is Star Wars. When he gets the opportunity to join the rebellion, Luke Skywalker must develop his skills and face his greatest foe, Darth Vader, in order to destroy the Death Star, learning along the way to trust the Force and resist the temptations of the dark side. That's basically what Star Wars is. So once you have your idea, once you figure out who your main character is, what you want to tell a story about, the first step is to fit it into this format so that you're sure you understand the story. The next step is to write a beat sheet. This is a list of every step your character takes to achieve their goal. It usually begins with the inciting incident, which again is that thing that happens that causes this movie to occur. And then from there, your character takes steps to solve the problem or get what they want. So going back to Toast, the inciting incident is that the toaster doesn't work. And then that character tries using the oven, tries using a lighter, tries all these different methods for making toast until they finally figure out what the problem is. The beat sheet does not contain details, dialogue, texture, or anything other than the specific steps that the character takes to solve their problem. It's got to be as clean and stripped down as possible. A beat is an occurrence in the plot that changes something, that advances the story. It should feel logical, cause and effect. You know, when we look at the character in The Black Hole, he discovered the inciting incident is random. He gets this piece of paper with a hole in it. There's no reason that happens. It just happens. That's the inciting incident. But from there, everything that happens is very logical. First, he figures out what it is. He learns to use it. Then he immediately, because of who he is, thinks, I'm going to steal something. He goes to the candy machine and he steals candy. That's not enough. He says, I've got to do something more. What's the next thing I can do with this? Because he's fulfilling his destiny as a greedy person who is going to be punished for his weakness. And he unlocks a locked door. We don't know why yet, but he knows why. He goes through the locked door, and now he tapes the here, I'll get a visual aid up here. Now he tapes the hole to the wall of the safe. He's reaching in, he's stealing the money. At this point, there's no reason that he could not succeed. But as an audience, we don't really want him to succeed, right? Like at this point, we understand what's going on in this movie in such a way that we are not rooting for this character to be successful. We're now rooting for him to get punished because we understand what story we're being told. So sure enough, he's not satisfied with the amount of cash that he can pull out of the safe, and he crawls all the way inside. And only after he does that does the tape slip and the hole fall off, and he gets trapped inside the safe. And it's worth mentioning that both of these movies, no dialogue whatsoever. It's purely visual storytelling. Okay. So as you all step away, you have 1 week to come up with a script. And again, I'm not worried about the formatting of that script. It does not have to be correct. I would like you to keep the dialogue as minimal as possible. It's okay to have a little bit if you want, but if you can tell a purely visual story, that's going to be better. I want you to invent a story that you can shoot, that's easy to shoot. You can do it with a phone. If you have a camera, that's great too. Avoid crowd scenes, avoid vehicles, weapons, fire, anything that's difficult or dangerous to do. Focus on the visual, on watching a character take actions, because film is a great medium for showing action. It's also a good medium for conversation, but it's better if you can make your characters take physical action rather than make it all happen through dialogue. And as you're coming up with your ideas, think about who's going to play the part. You might not want to write like an 80-year-old character unless your grandmother is available to act in your movie. Give me 1 second. I've got to close this window. Still a little weird, but okay. So between now and next Wednesday, you've got to come up with your script. You can all take a screen grab of this. You're going to write it. You're going to start by writing your log line for a 1 to 2 minute film, something on the scale of Toast. Or if you're feeling ambitious, maybe The Black Hole. write a beat sheet that describes every beat in the film, everything that has to happen. Oh man, it's really, let me see what I can do here. Let's see if I can. I'm being pursued by the sun. Okay, I guess this is as good as it gets. If you have no dialogue at all, the beat sheet might effectively be your script. But if you've got any dialogue, you might want to flesh it out a little bit more. Be visual, be inventive, be strange, take a risk, tell a weird story. You know, there's nothing on the line here. This is really for you to kind of begin to get the experience of filmmaking, maybe even have a little portfolio piece for when you apply to SCAD. You can, if you've never made a film before, now you'll have a film that you can share. If you have made films before, this is a chance to expand your craft and just make it an even better one. But don't be afraid to really take a chance with your storytelling and make a movie that's different from anything anybody's ever done before. I also want you to create a mood board. Very simple. Just pull images from anywhere, photography off the internet, and assemble it onto a page that shows us the look and the feel of your movie. Doesn't have to be literally what happens. It doesn't have to be a storyboard. Just has to be images that kind of feel like your movie would feel. And when we read these scripts in our next workshop, we can be looking at the mood board as a way of all kind of immersing ourselves a little bit in the story. So next week, we're going to present these scripts. Now, there's a lot of people in this room. Depending on how many teams we get, in an hour, we can't get through 30 scripts. So I think it is good if you can team up, but we'll just do the best we can when we come back in the next class and look at as many of those projects as we can. That is your assignment. And when we come back next time, we're going to take it to the next step, which is designing the shots and the sequences that you will do in order to tell that story. So all you're doing now is getting to the point where you've got a great story to tell, and it's in script form, and we've got a little mood board to give us a sense of the feeling. That is all I've got. Are there any questions about any of this, about the assignment or about SCAD, anything at all that you guys would like to talk about?
Thank you so much, Professor Wagner. And students, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box. We'll help you answer any question that you may have.
Sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to ask, do you have like any references for the beach sheet? Because actually, I don't have any concept about like how that works.
Sure. There's one right here. And I can actually send, Emily, if I give you this, if I convert this whole deck to a PDF, can I send that to you? Are you able to distribute it to the students?
Yes, totally.
Okay, great.
That will work.
Okay, but here's a beat sheet for the movie that we just watched, The Black Hole. I started with a log line. So the log line for The Black Hole is making copies late at night. A tired and bored man finds a piece of paper containing a magical hole that allows him to reach through any surface. He quickly puts the hole to use, stealing things, eventually paying the price for his greed. So that tells us who's the main character, what's the situation, what's his journey, and a little bit about the lesson. And then this is the beat sheet right here. There are about 10 beats. It starts with a man making copies late at night. This is a subtle one, but he kicks the copier in frustration and a sheet containing the magic hole pops out. That's actually what causes that to happen. I didn't even notice that the first time I watched the movie. The man discovers that the hole allows him to put his hand through any surface, so he figures out what it does. He uses the hole to steal a candy bar. First indicator that he's greedy and that this is going to be his journey. Next, he uses the hole to reach through the door and open a locked room. He tapes the hole to a safe and begins to pull money out of the safe. Reaching deeper and deeper into the safe, he tries to get all of the money. To collect the very last bundle of cash, he crawls through the hole into the safe. The tape comes unstuck, the paper containing the hole falls off the safe, and the man is trapped inside. So through these beats, every one is an action, every one is a thing that happens that really changes and advances the story. So that's really all there is to a beat sheet.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sure.
Sorry, excuse me. May I invite someone else to join the course? Is it too late? Like for the next class?
No, because I will, I'll provide this deck, and I'll provide links to because if I make it a PDF, the films won't come through, but I'll also give you the links to watch those films. And you can just explain to your friend, what the assignment is, or you can work with them and do a project together, and then they can attend the second class. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I just sending a QR code in the chat box. If you guys can join our online group, I will share the professor's presentation today to the group so everybody can have a copy of it.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you. This was really fun for me. I hope it's been a glimpse of what film education is all about and how we work at Scad. And I'm really excited to see your scripts and the ideas that you guys come up with. So I'll hand it back to you, Emily.
Thank you, Professor. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Great workshop. I hope you guys got a bit of interest on knowing what film and TV is looking like at Scad. And like I mentioned, please join our QR code through the line group. We will share the presentation today in the line group. And just a friendly reminder, the next workshop is next Wednesday, same time at 8 p.m. Taiwan time. Okay. If you guys have any question, our admission staff will also be in the group. If you have any question about Scad, about your application, we'll be in the group to answer any questions as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
See you guys next week.
Okay, bye-bye. All right.